stakeholders, agencies, businesses, and academia that make up the ICT ecosystem is essential if these Sustainable Development Goals are going to be achieved. And this is why the ITU, as the UN lead agency for information and communication technologies and telecommunications, has always supported the IGF and will continue to do so. The IGF plays a very important role as a platform for exchanging ideas and best practices to further progress in bringing the benefits of the information and knowledge society to all people. As is reflected in ITU's annual Measuring the Information Society report, which was launched last month, and ranks countries according to their ICT development, according to 11 different indicators, it's pleasing to note that there has been significant development over the last year in the extension of the ICTs. However, half the world still remains unconnected, and great disparities continue to exist, especially in the least developed countries, where only 1 out of 7 people is connected. ITU takes this very seriously, as ITU has the goal of connecting the unconnected, and its core mission is to close the digital divide. The last ITU Plenipotentiary Conference set a number of ambitious goals for connectivity, and this is included in what we call the Connect 2020 agenda. This will be a major contribution to achieving the Sustainable Development Goals. And to help achieve this, ITU has joined and has formed a number of global strategic partnerships, including the World Economic Forum's Internet for All and the US government's Global Connect initiative. Where we have found gaps, we have encouraged the establishment of global multi-stakeholder partnerships. One recent one is what we call Equals, the Global Partnership for Gender Equality in the Digital Age. This was recently launched by ITU and UN Women. And ITU regularly convenes global community to discuss and identify solutions, in particular the annual World Summit on the Information Society Forum held in Geneva each year, which is co-organized between ITU, UNESCO and UNCTAD and UNDP. It's the largest ICT for development conference in the world and serves as a platform for discussing the role of ICTs as a means of achieving the Sustainable Development Goals. The recent ITU Telecommunications Standardization Assembly gave further impetus to ITU's work on standards, in particular the network standards which will be necessary to support cloud computing, Internet of Things, 5G, and smart sustainable cities. The ITU Telecom World event, which was held last month in Bangkok, serves as a platform for accelerating ICT innovation for social and economic development through offering the possibility for startup companies and small and medium enterprises to showcase their products and to network with other companies and governments. So these events, together with the IGF and similar events around the world, all have the same goal: to ensure the active participation of people and countries around the world in the development and the use of the Internet and ICTs more generally. The IANA transition on September the 30th was an important milestone in the management of the critical Internet resources. On behalf of the ITU Secretary General, I convey our best wishes to Goran Molby and his team as they embark on the implementation phase. And we look forward to strengthening the relationship between ICANN and ITU to our mutual benefit. ITU is open and willing to work with all stakeholders to ensure a more equitable, accessible, and trustworthy internet for all. So thank you very much for your attention, and I wish you a very productive and enjoyable IGF. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Deputy Secretary General. Now, I would like to call upon Ms. Lynn Saint-Amour, Chair of the Internet Governance Forum Multi-Stakeholder Advisory Group.
Your Excellencies, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, buenas tardes. The 11th annual meeting of the Internet Governance Forum marks the first IGF following the 10-year mandate renewal by the United Nations General Assembly. And we are particularly happy to be here in Jalisco, Mexico, given Mexico's early support for renewing the IGF's mandate and their early commitment to host IGF 2016. And let me also take this opportunity to again thank member states for their support for the renewal of the IGF's mandate. As we start the second decade of the IGF, it's clear that expectations are high, and it's the first time since the IGF's inception that we have a long and fairly clear runway ahead of us. While there was clear and strong support for the extension of the IGF's mandate, there were also calls in the WSIS Plus 10 outcome document for us to accelerate the implementation of the recommendations from the CS2D Working Group on improvements to the IGF, and there were specific calls for the IGF to continue to show progress on working modalities and the participation of relevant stakeholders from developing countries. This year's theme is enabling inclusive and sustainable growth. It acknowledges the calls made in the WSIS Plus 10 outcome document, while also recognizing the very important goals set out in the 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development. It's particularly important given ICT's role as an enabler in virtually all the SDG goals. I believe the IGF is making progress in these areas and hope it seems that way to all of you as well. Looking at the IGF agenda, one can see how much of it is focused on addressing inclusion, various digital divides, or complex policy issues, to name only a few. And with respect to the improvements suggested by the CS2D Working Group on IGF improvements, or to the calls in the WSIS Plus 10 outcome document, some steps have already been taken, and I thank the chair of the CS2D for recognizing these efforts in his comments in an earlier session today. Staying on this point of improvements, or what many call continual evolution, earlier this year, the UN Department of Economic and Social Affairs, or UNDESA, organized a retreat on advancing the 10-year mandate of the IGF. This retreat is part of the IGF community's ongoing process aimed at continually improving the IGF. Other efforts as part of this process focus on strengthening the intersessional activities to provide more tangible outcomes. These intersessional activities currently are the best practice forums, the dynamic coalitions, and the policy options for connecting, enabling the next billions initiative. Other efforts were working more substantially with national and regional IGF initiatives, or the NRIs, improving remote participation capabilities, and increased support to newcomers and youth programs, again, to name just a few of the efforts. Returning to the retreat, participants came from all stakeholder groups. The proceedings from the retreat were published several months ago, and a lengthy public consultation period followed. That consultation continues during this IGF, and there is a slot during the Taking Stock session on Friday afternoon for this. Post this consultation, the process will be launched with the IGF community to advance the findings from the retreat. One thing, though, has become quite clear from the retreat proceedings, as well as from discussions within the MAG and the broader community, and that is the need and the desire to work to a longer time frame for many of our efforts. We now have a longer runway, and establishing a multi-year strategic level IGF program will help us improve and strengthen not only the annual IGF, but all the intercessional activities as well. We've just begun the second decade of the IGF, and as I said earlier, expectations are high across all stakeholders. This would seem then to be a good opportunity to remind everyone that the IGF is an extra budgetary project of the UN, meaning that the preparation of the forum and support to the year-round intercessional work relies on voluntary contributions, on donations, and not UN member fees. This can, in fact, be a fairly limiting factor on what the IGF can achieve. So we'll be looking to increase support to the work of the IGF through both traditional and more innovative ways, and any and all suggestions are welcome. The IGF makes important contributions in so many areas, such as expanding access, social inclusion, and economic growth, and working to close many of the digital divides, promoting human rights, and we look forward to accelerating developments in these areas and so many more. Finally, this year's IGF again set new benchmarks. While time doesn't allow me to enumerate them here, we will make sure they are featured in the Chair's report at the end of this meeting. On a personal note, I'd like to thank all those who helped me this year in the role of MAG Chair. I'd also like to recognize the efforts of and thank the MAG members, the IGF Secretariat, UNDESA, and of course the donors and the government of Mexico for their roles in making this IGF a success. Finally, a very big thank you to the community for all who worked so hard to make this IGF another great event, and to all those here and online for all the passion and hard work. And I hope you can tell just how much all that support has meant to me this past year. Thank you. Or late hours.
Thank you, Mrs. Amour. The next speaker is Mr. Hassanul Maghinu, Minister of Information, Government of Bangladesh.
Thank you. Honorable Mr. Chair, dignitaries, excellencies, ladies and gentlemen. Well, as you know, that ICTs are key enablers of development across all pillars of sustainable development and inclusive growth. But at this point, the present digital economy is developing without a proper digital infrastructure and without a proper legal, regulatory, technical regimes. 2, Internet is making a glass house which needs security added with trust. Otherwise, the glass house will be compromised. 3, there is also democracy deficit in the governance of net, and multi-stakeholderism is yet not properly implemented. 4, there are societal and technological vulnerabilities. 5, concentration of global north-based international e-commerce is a threat to the tax revenues of the global south. 6, digital market economy is in place and it is expanding globally without a proper legal regulatory framework. 7, the great divides are still there, the rural-urban divide, rich-poor, connected and unconnected, north and south, etc. The challenge still exists to connect the unconnected, the last billion and the next billion. 9, the world is still bogged down by 3 illiteracies: language illiteracy, information illiteracy, and ICT illiteracy. 10, emerging cyberspace is ushering a new era of development, but cyberspace is threatened by cyber criminals and terrorists, and there is a tendency to militarize it. 11, besides these, the world is facing 6 major issues: poverty, ICT, environment and climate change, gender disparity, SDGs, and terrorism. All these issues and problems need to be addressed, and we can enhance inclusive growth and sustainable development. For this, we need to agree on a policy paradigm shift to incorporate and coordinate role of the state and national needs and social needs with market forces and entrepreneurships. It is a four-dimensional social economic model which will ensure inclusiveness and sustainability with green and digital development. For enhancing sustainable development, we need internet which is affordable, accessible, efficient, resilient, reliable, interoperable, functional, stable, secure, as well as scalable in the long run. That is, we need a sustainable, inclusive, pro-people internet. For this, I propose 10-point action plan and followed by 3 global-level international treaties or agreements. Ladies and gentlemen, to make the internet sustainable and inclusive, I propose 10 points. Number 1, affordable. 2, accessible. 3, safe, which will include reliability of hardware and software, privacy and data protection, etc., etc. 4, to adopt enabling laws to remove international internet application roadblocks at national and international level. 5, removing democracy deficit in the governance of internet. 6, capacity building and institution building, and ICT literacy. 8, content development in mother tongue. Then 9, digital economy and trade, which will harmonize global trade and national trade. 10, internet be made basic human right. Having said that, I say that we need to agree on 3 global treaties. 1 is Global Treaty on Cyber Policy, 2, Global Treaty on Cyber Security, and a global agreement on democratic governance and multi-stakeholder governance of Internet. Having said that, let me conclude. Now it is our time to shoot, time where the idea arose with our Internet bows, that is sustainable Internet bows, denouncing encaged Internet system, yes to human rights, no to terrorism and cybercrime. Let Internet be instrument of peace and development, not an instrument of terror. Thank you very much. Joy Bangla.
Thank you very much, Minister. I would like now to invite Mr. Siyabonga Siwele, Minister of Telecommunications and Postal Services, Government of South Africa.
Your Excellencies, distinguished heads of international and regional Internet organizations, members of Internet communities, ladies and gentlemen, it is with great honor to join you all at this 11th Internet Governance Forum in this beautiful city of Guadalajara. I would like to congratulate His Excellency, the President, Enrique Pena Nieto, the Governor, the government and the people of Mexico for their unprecedented hospitality. We gather here under the renewed mandate given by the UN General Assembly, who reaffirmed this Internet Governance Forum as an important platform to enhance engagement of stakeholders on Internet governance, especially those from developing countries. To this effect, the mandate of the IGF was extended for another 10 years, so it to ensure that the digital divide that currently exists among developed and developing countries, urban and rural areas within countries, as well as between men and women, are or is eradicated. If we are to achieve a people-centered, inclusive, and development-oriented knowledge economy, enabling individuals and communities to achieve their full potential in promoting their sustainable development and improving their quality of life, then we must put Internet development for all at the center of our collective program of actions. By end of this month, the UN Broadband Commission estimate that 3.6 billion people will be connected to the Internet while 3.9, mainly from developing countries, will remain unconnected. It also alerted us to the widening gender divide, digital divide. The internet is a key enabler for development and is a catalyst for accelerating the outcomes of all three pillars of sustainable development, namely economic development, social inclusion, and environmental protection. We need public-private partnership and co-initiative to address this divide. As a member of the international community, we must share collective responsibility to ensuring that actions translate to tangible ICT investment and equitable allocation of resources to the developing countries. We must prove internet access and affordability of ICT applications and services to the citizen, especially to the marginalized groupings such as women, people living with disability, and youth. For this to happen, we must transform the internet and its management and operations into a truly global multilateral resource. This means encouraging investment in affordable and reliable electricity for those who come from developing countries, investment in broadband infrastructure to drive uptake, the development of locally relevant content and applications to ensure usage, developing fairer standards to promote innovation in developing countries, including the capacity to manufacture and use equipment. South Africa, like other developing nations, do not want to miss the fourth industrial revolution. We want to be at the forefront of its benefit while minimizing the potential negative impact on job creation. We are encouraging investment and incentivizing international companies to locate their regional innovation hubs in South Africa. We have revised national policies to encourage ICT investment. We have a national ICT forum which brings together all national stakeholders and assists us in our policy implementation. Wi-Fi is being used, public Wi-Fi is being used as a means of ensuring basic internet access for the poor. We are now focusing on the infrastructure rollout to underserved areas. Reliable connectivity and innovation are no longer nice to have, but essential tools for development. I agree with Mo Ibrahim and African ICT entrepreneurs who say it may not actually cost us so much, as some predict, because individuals and businesses are ready to pay for broadband, even in Africa, because they receive better utility as citizens and provide higher returns for companies who are willing to invest in such markets. Ours as government is to ensure enabling environment. Let me conclude, Program Director, by emphasizing that it is possible to connect every global citizen by 2030. It is a function of robust network skills, innovation, converting local content into economic opportunity, and affordable data and services. It is about human solidarity to connect the global poor. Digital divide like poverty is not natural for Africa, and it will be overcome. We draw strength from former President Nelson Mandela's encouraging words, who said, I quote, "Overcoming poverty is not a task of charity. It is an act of justice. Like slavery and apartheid, poverty is not natural. It is man-made and can be overcome and eradicated by actions of human beings. Sometimes it falls on a generation to be great. You can be that generation. Let your greatness blossom as we connect the last 100 to the internet." I thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Suele. The next speaker is Mrs. Megan Richards, Principal Advisor in DG Connect, European Commission.
Muy buenas tardes a todo el mundo. It's a great pleasure to be here in Mexico, especially with the new mandate of the IGF for the next 10 years, which Mexico supported very strongly. We're very pleased to be here. Unfortunately, Vice President Ansip, who was planning to come here and has been a great supporter of the IGF, was not able to be here today, but he sends his very best greetings and wishes for a very successful conference. It's particularly important that this IGF takes place in Mexico with the theme of enabling an inclusive, sustainable development. Mexico, as I said, has been supporting very much the multi-stakeholder approach, and it's very useful and important that we have this multi-stakeholder meeting here in a thriving, dynamic economy, and also the first one that takes place after the IANA transition, which so many of you have worked on with a lot of devotion, many hours, a lot of hair pulling. It wasn't easy, but it was achieved, and I want to mention also the importance of the contribution of the US government and in making this happen and in allowing it to take place. But of course, it is the first success of the multi-stakeholder approach. We have to make it work now. And now is our challenge to make sure that this really works well. And I throw that challenge out to all of you to ensure that we continue on this very good path. Europe has been supporting the multi-stakeholder approach to internet governance for many years. This is something that is supported not just politically by the European Parliament, by the Council of Ministers, by the European Commission, by all the member states of the European Union, but we also contribute financially to the IGF Secretariat, and we have done for the last 10 years, and we will continue to do this in the future. We have a strong and vibrant internet governance environment and community in Europe, but this goes far beyond Europe's borders, and we recognize and participate very actively in all the global efforts in internet governance. In fact, today there are 12 members of the European Parliament participating. We've never had such a large delegation at an internet governance forum, and it shows how important we think this is for the future of the internet. In Europe, we are developing and building a digital single market, and the internet is at the backbone of the digital single market. It's the intention to improve the digital economy and society, and the internet is really at the base of that. So this is one of the reasons why we think that the internet is so important, and its governance is particularly important. And the digital single market is not something that is intended to make Europe a closed fortress. On the contrary, the introduction and establishment and development and rollout of a real digital single market will make Europe an even better global player, much more open to the rest of the world, much easier to trade with, especially with respect to digital goods and services. And this is the future. We've seen what a dramatic change and improvement over the last 20 years the internet has brought to all of us in terms of improving the economy and also enabling society. And that's what I want to bring now, the discussion on the Sustainable Development Goals, because, as I said, the digital single market, by using enabling technologies, is addressing most of those Sustainable Development Goals, not just in Europe, but also beyond. And we have seen how important the use of information and communication technologies are in driving forward and achieving those goals. The introduction and development of our information and communication technologies and bringing digital technology into our development assistance is also a very important element. Europe is the biggest development aid donor, and we have just in the last few weeks made even more commitments to making sure that digital technologies are embedded in that development assistance and that we work together with everyone around the world to ensure that this multi-stakeholder approach to supporting the internet and making sure that it grows and develops properly and brings solutions to ensuring that we achieve the Sustainable Development Goals is really carried out over the next years. So all stakeholders have a voice in making sure that the internet works, in making sure that the Sustainable Development Goals are achieved. And I want to make a special plea to all of you in this room, but also to the next generation. Over the past 20 years, when and while the internet has really become more of a mainstream communicating facility, economic facility, and improved the lives of so many people, we have to make sure that the future, which lies with you, has the internet at its core, and a solid, robust, and stable internet that we can all trust and use. So I throw that challenge out to you. We are here to help and to contribute and to participate, as we always have with all the stakeholders, on an equal footing. Thank you.
Thank you very much. It's now my pleasure to give the floor to our next speaker, Mr. Joran Marby, CEO and President of ICANN.
Thank you. First, I would like to thank country of Mexico and IGF for having me here. I really love this event. And as you know, ICANN is a very strong supporter of this event. And it's not only because we see this as one of the most important places to discuss internet policy there is, but it's also because it's based on something that we think is very important, the multi-stakeholder model and this process. Other speakers have spoken about it, but in the heart of this, it's the multi-stakeholder model, a model that we now know actually works. And again, I would like to take the opportunity to thank you all for all your support during the transition process. Without you, it wouldn't have happened. And actually, without you, it shouldn't have happened. The multi-stakeholder model meant during transition that so many people came together in so many countries for such a long time. And I still claim that no one has seen anything like it before. It is like a big peace project. I also think that the multi-stakeholder model has done something else during this time. It actually creates credibility and accountability, because what we and I can do now is we are accountable for a multi-stakeholder model with a lot of people involved in it, and that's much more than being accountable just to a company or an organization or actually to a government. But we're not done yet. We have to continue to develop the same way as internet develops as itself. We need you not to stop now. Here in this event now, I'm looking forward for all the discussions you're having, because you are here to form how people are using internet, which is really, really what internet is for. We will continue to support IGF in all levels, regional, local, whatever it is. And we will also continue to work together with other UN bodies. And thank you very much for Malcolm for your remarks as well. We will also continue to work with the Business Forum and also with UNESCO. Because today we have 3.6 billion users of one interconnected system. This is what you have created. This works according to plan, as usually Steve says. And we are going to add more people. And the internet's going to change when we add more people to it. With your help, with your work, with your passion going forward, I don't think or foresee any major problems. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Marby. The next speaker is Mrs. Anita Gurumurthy, Executive Director, IT for Change.
Respected colleagues and dear friends, most of us who come back to the IGF year after year share a dream that the internet, as a cherished innovation, can make possible a society that's free and equal. With 10 IGFs behind us, we need to ask ourselves how well we have done. Let's take access. Over 40% of the 7.5 billion people on this planet are connected. However, we are told that connectivity rates are slowing down. But this may not be a cause for worry. The network will get to the last woman anyway. Never mind if it is rudimentary and of poor quality. Never mind if it is zero-rated. A global, immersive, invisible, networked computing environment built through the marvels of the cloud, massive data centers, and proliferation of smart everythings will soon be upon us. The world will be connected by 2025. My submission, as we begin our deliberations on inclusive and sustainable growth at this IGF, is that since 2005, as we have been busying ourselves to bring access to all, a mission creep has overtaken us. A totalizing net of surveillance has annexed the planet, rapidly enfolding society and sociality. The unfreedoms of the internet are not just about exclusion, but the despotism of a tireless net that enslaves us as subjects of a datafied world. There was a time when those who could manipulate media manipulated elections. Now algorithms are taking over electoral processes and the media. Welcome to post-truth on the post-human planet. The primary problem before us is not a problem of trust, as we are told in every other internet report, but that of greed. In digital capitalism, it is cheaper to give access to people than leave them alone. And so, as we stand by watching, the internet is becoming a rapacious instrument of capture. It is the basis of networked individualism, the motor of a consumptive society where the race for big data co-opts us as willing slaves of limitless goodies. From a predatory internet, the path downhill can only be a society that self-cannibalizes. The second problem is that we have forfeited the opportunity that the digital revolution brought us to build a technology of memory that can radically change the power structures of society. The history of every civilization is about its technology of memory. As social memory and cognition are increasingly centralized through the databases and algorithms of state and corporate surveillance, we see a crisis of extreme alienation and unprecedented inequality. A world that is fully networked as things stand can neither be sustainable nor inclusive. 2025 is unlikely to be raceless, genderless, casteless, or classless. This brings us to the third problem. The digital phenomenon is invariably cast as post-political, as an autonomous force that is best left alone, untarnished by human intent. But inclusion presupposes the rule of law. As the internet redefines institutions globally and locally, it dislocates the boundaries of existing jurisprudence. To pass the test of equality and inclusion, the network data structures scaffolding all institutions need a new philosophy and science of law and justice. The current paralysis of global internet governance is unsustainable. As the global network finds its way into reality, augmenting it through embedded code and remote control, there is a huge loss of local autonomy. The internet's logic is inherently irreverential of territorial jurisdiction. The absence of a democratic international platform to address public interest in times of algorithmic tyranny reflects a monumental crisis of governance. A private platform floated by the top 6 digital corporations named Partnerships on AI to benefit people and society is all set to formulate best practices on artificial intelligence technologies. Industry standards do indeed have a role to play, but an internet that can be individually empowering, collectively enriching, and ecologically restorative is possible only through a democratic rule of law that can guarantee the mechanisms of accountability in global governance. It's time we moved in this direction of forging a global digital compact. The dialogic space of IGF is indeed a unique venue for public deliberation, but to complement the IGF, we need a robust political process to develop global norms and policies for the internet as required by the Tunis Agenda. The task for civil society is cut out. Unless social movements can come together to reimagine an alternative internet, one that promotes diverse universes under the internet will not be possible. Our wisdom is getting colonized. It is time for a new politics of internet governance. At the risk of sounding techno-deterministic, I would like to say to you all, if we can save the internet, we may perhaps be able to save the planet. Now, let's look to our neighbor and begin a conversation. Do they know there is a question here? Do they understand the now or never imperative? Friends, before I say thank you, I would like to lend my voice of support to the statement issued by my Mexican civil society colleagues during the IGF about their human rights concerns. I believe that the internet must be protected as a bastion of democracy. It cannot become an instrument to undermine human rights. Now I say thank you.
Thank you very much, Ms. Gurumurthy. Now I'd like to give the floor to Mr. Omar Mansoor Ansari, President of Tech Nation, Afghanistan. Thank you.
Hola, Mexico. Your Excellencies, ladies and gents. My name is Omar Mansoor Ansari, and I'm president of Tech Nation, a Kabul-based technology company. I'm a new MAC member, and I'm honored to be speaking to you on behalf of the business community. But before I begin, I'd like to engage with you in an exercise. Will you do it with me? Will you do it with me? Okay. The world exists because of the good people like you. Okay, now, I'd like the people, except for the first and second row, to stand up. Please stand up. That's the population of underserved developing world. And this is huge. These are the young people in our planet, and they're the women, the poor. These are the people, when it comes to business, these are the startups and SMEs who innovate and create technology solutions for the most critical problems we face. By the way, these are the rich people. They're from developed countries. And I'd like all of us to be sitting with them. Thank you. Ladies and gents, in order to provide an internet that's one and for all, we need to engage the underserved population. If we're thinking about connecting the next billions, we need to take committed actions to serving and engaging the local communities in the developing economies. Let me share with you the Afghanistan case, because that's where I belong. Internet in Afghanistan costs $300 per Mbps, a connection, making it completely unaffordable for the Afghans, majority of whom are living under the poverty line. While the same bandwidth in the US is $5, in Japan, it's less than $0.50. This is how and why our education, business, and society in Afghanistan cannot enhance the way we want it. Dear colleagues, this is not the Afghan problem alone. There are so many other people in economies that are affected by lack of access to the internet, access to education, especially for women, job opportunities, and adequate policies to facilitate investment and support innovators and entrepreneurs to nurture and grow. And issues such as cybersecurity threats, cross-border data flows, and access to other basic needs. In short, the very challenges the Sustainable Development Goals, the SDGs, are developed to address. Dear colleagues, the business community calls for action to address these challenges as we see them critically important for an equitable and sustainable development across regions. However, we also understand that a single stakeholder group would not be able to address these alone. Thus, we call for partnerships in collaboration among diverse stakeholders to address these and many more challenges our people face in developing and developed countries. The IGF makes this collaboration possible by providing an excellent platform for enhancing dialogues and discussions across different stakeholder groups. And that's why I'd like to congratulate the IGF community for their tireless work during the first decade of the IGF and getting the endorsement of the United Nations to a 10-year extension. This 10-year extension gives us new opportunities to plot our course for fulfilling the vision of the Tunis Agenda and to take up the critical integration and synergy between the IG and the SDGs. Dear colleagues, the IGF has truly deepened my knowledge and understanding of the Internet issues, and I'm still learning. When I see many young faces and newcomers in the hall, that reminds me of my participation at the WISES 2003 as a member of the Youth Caucus. I was excited, I was learning, but confused at the same time. I want to invite you, the newcomers in youth, to continue to be part of the IGF family, to contribute to your local communities and actively engage with us on global level. Dear colleagues, I want to wrap up by appreciating on behalf of the business community the efforts of the Mexican government for hosting us and also for their dedication to the IGF throughout the years. I'd also recognize and appreciate the UN officials, governments and NGOs, representatives from several private and technical communities who made it possible for all of us to come together in the spirit of partnership and collaboration to address the most critical challenges we are facing today. May we see more Internet governance partnerships that are aligned to the SDGs and in the developing countries. Muchas gracias for your attention.
Thank you, Mr. Mansour Ansari. The next speaker is Mr. Shigeki Suzuki, Vice Minister for Policy Coordination, Ministry of International Affairs and Communications, Government of Japan.
Mr. Chairman, and ladies and gentlemen, I would like to extend gratitude to everyone making tremendous effort to host this forum. I greatly appreciate that we could reaffirm the importance of the Internet Governance Forum, IGF, as a space that facilitates the discussion and dialogue of public policy issues on the Internet governance. Was confirmed at the WISES 10 high-level event in December 2015. It's my great pleasure to attend this memorable forum. IGF has been functioning very effectively as an opportunity to gather thousands of multi-stakeholders and deepen the discussion over the various issues surrounding the Internet that has been changing with the times, including global issues such as the sustainable environment, aging society, poverty, and so on.
As I mentioned in the beginning, the renewal of IGF for another 10 years was decided at the WSIS 10 high-level meeting held in December last year. It is our understanding that this renewal is a result of the fact that IGF as a place for the free and open discussion was recognized to play an important role in the development of the Internet worldwide in the future and the achievement of the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals. In order to enable us to achieve the main theme of the forum, that is inclusive and sustainable growth, through our discussions at IGF, it is essential for us to participate proactively in the discussion at IGF. In the meantime, we should cooperate with regional Internet governance forums and train young people as a youth IGF so that they will play active roles in the next generations. We consider that it is important for IGF to transmit a clearer message to the world through its activities while taking more practical initiatives and encouraging the various stakeholders in the world to deepen their discussion over the internet governance. I suppose that it is still fresh in your mind that the contract between the ICANN and the NTIA expired on September 30 of this year, and the stewardship of the IANA function has been transferred to the GO multi-stakeholder community. This transition has a crucial importance, indicating that the Internet continues to be operated by the multi-stakeholders, which include full and active participation by the private sector, academia, civil society, and governments. In that sense, Japan sincerely welcomes the IANA function stewardship transitions. Finally, I fully expect that discussions contributing to the Internet governance of the future will be made at this IGF, the first meeting after the important event, that is the renewal of IGF decided by the WSIS 10 high-level meeting and the NTIA's IANA function stewardship transition. Japan, as a member of the multi-stakeholders, would like to commit continuously so that the important resources of the Internet will be distributed smoothly. Therefore, I would like to keep contributing the future of the Internet with you all through fruitful discussion and sharing the best practices. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Vice Minister Suzuki. I'll now give the floor to Mr. Lawrence Strickling, Assistant Secretary for Communication and Information and Administration, NTIA of the United States.
Thank you. We're now at the halfway point, I believe, so hang in there just a little bit longer. Nearly 20 years ago, the United States promised to privatize the Internet's domain name system. 2 years ago, the United States announced its intent to complete that privatization once the multi-stakeholder community completed a consensus plan for that transition. That transition was discussed in great detail at the IGF in Istanbul in 2014 and again last year in Joa Pessoa. Today, I am pleased to appear here at IGF 2016 to report that the transition is now complete and was complete as of October 2016. So the United States government now stands on an equal footing with all other governments with respect to ICANN and the domain name system. For the past 2 years, the world has witnessed the power of the multi-stakeholder model of Internet governance. In developing the IANA transition plan, stakeholders around the world, including many of you, have provided perhaps the most compelling demonstration of the power of the multi-stakeholder model that we have ever witnessed. The challenge now before us is how can we expand and evolve the multi-stakeholder approach? Can we build on the success of the IANA transition and on the outcome of the 10-year review of the World Summit on the Information Society to tackle other Internet policy challenges? And to do this, we must understand and adhere to the attributes of a successful multi-stakeholder model. It is clear that the most effective multi-stakeholder processes are ones that, 1, include and integrate the viewpoints of a diverse range of stakeholders, ensuring that historically underrepresented groups have a meaningful say in the policies that impact them. 2, it produces outcomes that are consensus-based, reflect compromise, and are broadly supported by the stakeholder communities. 3, the agendas are built through bottom-up contributions rather than delivering top-down mandates. And 4th, the process must earn its legitimacy by practicing openness and transparency and developing an environment of trust. Let me elaborate on this legitimacy point because it is perhaps the most critical component. Participants must have some trust in those convening the process and a sense that the world at large will accept and recognize the outcome of the process as authoritative. So where does this legitimacy come from? Often that legitimacy may come from a government or some other official entity that convenes the process, but government does not have to be the legitimizing force. For example, the Internet Engineering Task Force is an example of a successful multi-stakeholder body that has gained legitimacy organically over the years and did not require the blessing of a government agency like NTIA. One thing is clear, to be accepted as legitimate, a process needs to be open to any participant and consciously include a diversity of stakeholders. The Internet thrives today only through the cooperation of many different parties, so solving or even meaningfully discussing policy issues in this space requires engaging participants from industry, civil society, governments, technical experts, and the academic communities. Absent this openness and diversity, it will be difficult to achieve the degree of legitimacy needed for a multi-stakeholder process to be successful. And at the same time, participants must know they will be the ones to make the decision, not someone else, and that it must be a consensus decision. Expanding and evolving the multi-stakeholder process also requires a dedicated and concerted effort to educate people about the multi-stakeholder model. It is up to those of us who support the model to build greater awareness and understanding of it among key policymakers, business leaders, and others around the world. And when we engage in those educational efforts, we must be direct and upfront and explain that the multi-stakeholder process is not easy. They can be chaotic, and they do require a serious commitment of time and energy from participants. But we can now point to a record of success, and we can explain that they offer a nimble, flexible approach and are better suited to the rapidly changing technology and markets than traditional regulatory or legislative models. So I urge you, seize this moment. Use the momentum generated by the recent success in completing the IANA transition to build on that experience and find opportunities to apply the multi-stakeholder model to those issues where it has the best chance to succeed. Throughout the week in Guadalajara, as you engage in discussions with different stakeholders from around the world, consider how you can organize multi-stakeholder approaches back home in your own community. Consider how you can join with other stakeholders regionally or globally to demonstrate the value of the model. And continue to engage in the IGF going forward, this annual forum, the national and regional initiatives, and the important dialogues and intercessional work it fosters. This is the first IGF in the renewed 10-year mandate we achieved in the WSIS review last December, and we have 9 more years in which to continue to expand participation, enrich the dialogue, and indeed demonstrate the power of the system for all. The world is waiting. Let's get on with the task. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Strickland. Next up is Mrs. Katie Brown, President and CEO, Internet Society.
Good afternoon. Once again, I'd like to thank the Government of Mexico for hosting this IGF and the Multi-Stakeholder Advisory Group and ULIN for putting forth such an excellent agenda. And to all of you, friends and colleagues, for being here, especially the next generation of Internet leaders, 90 young activists from Mexico, the region, and around the world. Thank you for staying to the end. The open, trusted global Internet has delivered on its promise as a tool to change lives, enhance communities, and to provide essential human services. But the progress is uneven and threatened by challenges that have grown just as the Internet itself has grown. I'd like to suggest to you, my friends and colleagues, that now is the time for the Internet community to confront the most important challenges before us to advance our shared objective of bringing the Internet to everyone, everywhere. First and foremost, as every speaker before me has said, we have only done half the job. Connecting the unconnected remains a key challenge, and deploying infrastructure, increasing usability, and enforcing and ensuring affordability are critical to creating an Internet that is truly for everyone. Today, we released a report entitled Beyond the Net, showcasing the impact the Internet Society and its partners are making in providing connectivity to the least connected communities. You'll find it on our homepage. We ask you all to join in this effort. At the same time, multiple security issues are damaging user confidence and have emerged as the existential threat to the future of the Internet. The Internet Society's Global Internet Report, released last week, calls for urgent attention to the growing problem of data breaches. In addition, issues such as blocking of content, privacy, mass surveillance, cybercrime, hacking, and fake news are all contributing to what is a growing global erosion of trust amongst users. It is incumbent upon those of us who build, safeguard, and cherish the global open Internet to be realistic about both the Internet's strengths and weaknesses. We understand its technical vulnerabilities and the social and political challenges that are mounting. We can best explain the Internet's openness as a means to protect it. It is the key to robust, flexible, and agile solutions. We can't let policies of fear damage the foundational values that have defined the Internet since its creation: openness, transparency, and inclusiveness. At the WSIS review, as Larry just spoke, the governments of the world renewed the commitment to a collective, inclusive model for governing ourselves on the Internet. We have the opportunity now to reinforce this multi-stakeholder approach as we address today's pressing issues. Collaboration, not isolation, is the way forward. We're in a good position because the Internet's governance model and its technical architecture is designed to facilitate collaboration and change. But change will not happen by itself. It will take all of us working together to keep the Internet open and secure for future generations. We have a choice. We can let others take the lead, or we can be resolute and fight for the future we want. The IGF is an ideal place to come together, civil society, governments, technical experts, and academia, to find a coherent voice and insist on the model we fought for and for the Internet we want. We still have time, but there is urgency. Our collective actions today will determine the Internet of opportunity that future generations will inherit, use, and build on. Let's use this meeting in this wonderful place to recommit ourselves to the shared values and shared objective of bringing a global, open, trusted Internet to everyone, everywhere. Have a good meeting, and thank you.
Thank you very much, Ms. Kathy Brown. Our next speaker is Mr. Indrajit Banerjee, Director of the Knowledge Societies Division of UNESCO.
Excellencies, distinguished participants, ladies and gentlemen, on behalf of UNESCO, I would like to take this opportunity to express my gratitude to the Mexican government for hosting the 11th IGF, which is an indication of their commitment to Internet governance. We had very fruitful sessions at the pre-event yesterday and have an exciting program ahead of us. I would also like to thank the dedicated chair of the IGF Secretariat, and the Multi-Stakeholder Advisory Group, and all the other contributors for an inclusive, transparent, and successful preparatory process. UNESCO is very pleased to contribute to the 11th time to an IGF, particularly now that it has been renewed for another 10 years. This new medium-term perspective is a testament to how successful the bottom-up multi-stakeholder approach of the IGF has been. It is also an opportunity to plan ahead, and we appreciate efforts made by the IGF Chair and MAG members to take a holistic view to explore what we would like to achieve and cover over the next decade. For UNESCO, the application and defense of all human rights online, and I quote the 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development, to bridge the digital divide and to develop knowledge societies, end of quote, should be one of the pillars of IGF's future work. Ensuring human rights online is a constantly growing challenge, and at the same time vital for assuring peace and enabling inclusive and sustainable growth, the theme of the IGF this year. While we all know about the evolving Internet opportunities, we are also increasingly aware of the challenges we need to address. The rise of social media, for example, has opened new avenues for free expression, and at the same time, it has witnessed the rise of hate speech, cyberbullying, cybercrime, threats to privacy, and many such challenges. It is, however, not just technology that is evolving. The recent IANA transition shows us the fundamental and exciting developments in the area of Internet governance. At UNESCO's 38th General Conference, member states adopted a new approach to Internet issues based on the outcome document of the Connecting the Dots conference, which many of you participated in. This includes the Internet universality concept and the Rome principles, in other words, which stand for a human rights-based, open, accessible, and multi-stakeholder approach to Internet. Defending human rights online also means ensuring that access to information and knowledge is truly universal, that we continue to have an Internet, not a splinter net. But we need to go far beyond connectivity and infrastructure issues when we think about universal access. We need to, above all, overcome barriers in terms of education, of language, of relevant content, of enabling policies, and of capacity. We need to address what are called soft challenges, which constitute sometimes the biggest barriers. We need to recognize that less women and girls have access to the Internet than men, and that little is done for people with disabilities to access the Internet. And let me remind you that there are more than 1 billion people who suffer from some form of disability or the other. And for them, access is critical to empowerment and inclusion. We need to assess and acknowledge the facts to better understand the whys and target our collective action. And I think in that sense, the IGF provides us with an excellent platform. UNESCO is addressing these challenges through numerous activities. Last year, our member states decided that the 28th of September will be declared the International Day for Universal Access to Information. UNESCO is also contributing to SDG 1610 on public access to information with a number of you as close partners. At this IGF, UNESCO will be sharing findings from the latest edition of our Internet Freedom Series publications and our work on the UNESCO World Atlas of Languages. We will be contributing through discussions on judiciary systems, social media, and youth radicalization and encryption. Our open forum on Thursday will touch on our Internet-related work on the SDGs, as well as explore topics relating to Internet universality, on balancing transparency and privacy, and multilingualism and empowering people with disabilities. There is still a lot of work left to create an online environment where human rights are protected, which is open, multi-stakeholder based, and accessible to all. In this spirit, I wish we have productive and constructive exchanges and effective collaboration for the future of internet governance. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you, Mr. Banerjee. I'd now like to give the floor to Mr. Steve Crocker, CEO and co-founder of Shinkuro, chair of the ICANN board.
Thank you all, and thank you very much for the invitation to speak here, particularly since my colleague Joran Marby has already spoken about ICANN, and I have currently the privilege of being the chair of the board of ICANN, but I'll try to speak less about ICANN and more about the internet as a whole, and to emphasize the positive. And it's going to be a challenge because almost everything that can be said has already been said. That is the feature of the internet. A friend of mine once said, you can find everything on the internet. It's typed in every day over and over again. I had the privilege of being part of the origins of this process going back almost 50 years ago. And a few of us were sitting around a table not much bigger than sort of the space I'm outlining here, trying to figure out what we were going to do with this technology that was being presented to us. And we had a blank slate and not much guidance. And we established, not so much in a carefully thought out way, but in a sort of intuitive way, a principle of openness that actually evolved into three distinct and very important directions. One was that from a technical perspective, the architecture needed to be open. We could not anticipate, we did not know all of the uses, all of the applications that would come into existence, but we knew that there would be many and that they would be beyond whatever we might conceive of. And so it was vital that in the initial protocols that we defined, that we leave the hooks, we leave the access so that it's not a sealed product, so to speak, but an open platform that people could add to. That led to the idea of protocol layers, worked out very nicely. What's important here are the other two elements of openness that emerged. We made all of the documentation, all of the thought processes, all of the dialogue accessible and open to anybody, anywhere, free of charge, no problem whatsoever. We didn't even think about it as that being unusual. Later we learned that it was. It's had absolutely dramatic impact. The other element of openness was open participation. It was not just the few of us who were involved in the initial discussions, but it was an open forum that grew from a half a dozen to, oh my God, we've got 50 people, where are we going to put them all? And it grew substantially, of course, past that. The IETF is sort of the hallmark of that forum today. Hundreds of working groups still working on protocols. You thought all the protocols were built. Not so. 1,000 plus people, between 1,000 and 2,000 people come to IETF meetings 3 times a year. IETF is just one of multiple institutions that have grown up in this environment. The regional internet registries, the Internet Society, the internet service providers, ICANN more recently, and the IGF, of course. The creation of these institutions in this open environment is another aspect, another consequence of the openness, and it is vital to the continued growth, continued evolution, and continued success. The internet has affected and transformed almost every aspect of our lives, every aspect of our society. There are obviously some challenges that it has presented. We've heard about security. There are challenges to governance. There are challenges in every aspect. And, of course, these are on top of the enormous benefits and the enormous capabilities that it has brought us. These will continue, and the challenge, I think, in front of us is not only to embrace and enhance and strengthen the institutions that we have, but yet even to build new institutions that deal with some of the emergent problems where we do not yet have the proper governance mechanisms. ICANN is a particular solution to a particular problem. I've been very pleased to be strongly involved in it for a long period of time. It sits at the intersection of the openness of the technology and the openness of the governance process, but it is not a solution to everything. It is a solution to the particular tasks that were set forth. And I look forward to and fully expect that just like IGF, just like ICANN, there will be other institutions that get built. You guys are going to do it. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Crocker. Our next speaker is Mr. Mokhtar Yadali, Head of the Information Society Division of the African Union Commission.
Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, it is for me a great honor to be here today, speaking on behalf of the African Union Commission. And it's always sad when I get into a gathering like that and I don't see many Africans in the room. It's always telling me that I still have a long, long way to go. But having said that, we would like, first of all, to thank the government and the people of Mexico for having us here and hosting this great event. Our special thanks to the organizers, specifically the IGF Secretariat and the NDSR. The African Union Commission believes strongly on the IGF. That's why we have and we still host the African Internet Governance Forum Secretariat, and we try to emulate that at each of the levels, meaning at the regional level, what we call the regional economic communities, and specifically within our countries. So far, most of our countries have constituted their national internet governance forums, and we have the 5 regional economic communities also set up their own regional internet governance forums. We have hosted the last one in Durban, and there will be a specific session with regard to that, specifically on Thursday, and we are inviting all of you to participate on that. The ICTs in general represent a unique opportunity for Africa to transform itself, and specifically to catch up with the rest of the world with regard to education, health, peace, and stability. It is, though, very important for us to make sure that internet is being used properly to address those socioeconomic challenges we do have, specifically to make sure that the governance is actually so appropriate that Africa will not be opening itself because of the lack of contents or because of lack of connectivity to expose itself to so-called digital colonization. We'd rather be part of the economics and to make sure that our programs with Africa and for Africa are being done properly. We would like to thank everyone, individuals, NGOs, companies, private sector, intergovernmental institutions who are assisting Africa to build their own digital agenda. It is a tremendous work you are all doing, and you are all doing within Africa, and Africa is really feeling grateful for that. This is all I wanted to say from the African Union point of view, again by reiterating our thanks to everybody. Our special thanks to one person, Larry Strickling. You have been part of the history. You made the Yana transition happen with all of us, Thank you very much, and we recognize that. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mokhtar. The next speaker is Mrs. Maria Fernanda Garza, President and CEO of Forestia, Chair, ICC Mexico.
Thank you very much. Buenas tardes. My name is Maria Fernanda Garza, and I am a chairwoman of the International Chamber of Commerce in Mexico and a member of the Global Board of Directors of ICC. I am also CEO and founder of several enterprises outside the ICT sector. I am pleased to be here speaking on behalf of the ICC, the World Business Organization, a global network of 6.5 million companies of all sizes and sectors in 130 countries. Since 2006, ICC has enabled many representatives from its network to come to the IGF each year under the umbrella of its Business Action to Support the Information Society Basis Initiative. To engage with colleagues from civil society, governments, and technical community with the purpose of building common understanding of the opportunities and challenges presented by the evolution of the information society and the digital economy. The business sector that comes to the IGF each year is committed to the goal of the World Summit of Information Society, achieving a common vision, desire, and commitment to build people-centric, inclusive, and development-oriented information society where everyone can create, access, utilize, and share information. On this context, we see the Internet as a boundless platform for products and services innovation, business opportunities, and social inclusion, a critical enabler of social and economic change, and a facilitator of greater dialogue and collaboration between governments, business, and citizens. Internal influence on access, diversity, trust, openness, security rights, and multi-stakeholder participation will impact our ability to manage socioeconomic aspects of sustainable development. Therefore, Internet governance is a critical dialogue in shaping the evolution of global communication and knowledge exchange necessary for an inclusive and sustainable growth. The IGF chose for its 2016 theme, Enable Inclusive and Sustainable Growth, and we cannot think of a more fitting topic for the Internet community to focus its collective energy on. It is my understanding that on this first year of the IGF's new 10-year mandate, IGF has taken some important steps to pursuing inclusivity in the event itself and in the program. This has been done both through outreach and active engagement of national and regional initiatives. It has also been achieved through community-driven intercession activities and best practices forum work. In its aim to be more inclusive, the IGF not only faces outward with outstretched arms, but also rallies the global Internet community to engage with local communities. This is important to raise awareness and to develop an understanding of why the topics we are addressing here at the IGF are important locally. It also informs on how to engage and be part of the conversation. I would like to encourage all communities represented here to continue this active effort to bring in new voices and that will enrich our discussion. Last year, ICC acted as key focal point for business in the many processes that led to the creation of the 2030 Development Agenda and its landmark Sustainable Development Goals. We recognize that to reach the SDGs, we need to harness the potential of ICT to accelerate sustainable development. ICC Bases wants to celebrate inclusion and share an example on how ICT can contribute to SDG number 10, reduce inequalities. That is why we have supported the participation in the social enterprise Laboratoria at this year's IGF. Laboratoria empowers young women from low-income backgrounds in several Latin American countries by giving them access to education and jobs in the digital sector. The private sector, it is committed to playing its part in advancing this agenda with other stakeholders. This includes helping to ensure an enabling environment for ICT to facilitate inclusive and sustainable development rooted in a safe and secure internet for business, governments, and citizens alike. A fully interoperable policy and legal framework, a strict respect for human rights, both online and offline, an open and competitive market in the Internet and Internet-enabled products and services vital for many emerging SMEs in developing economies, and a sound policy development to facilitate the speedy adoption of new technologies that augment the use of Internet as a platform for innovation and economic growth. ICC will double the efforts to ensure that the evolution of Internet governance is good for business and good for society, staying faithful to the tenet that international trade, investment, and a market economy with social responsibility are cornerstones for raising and spreading wealth. Thank you for joining us here in Mexico for a new round of dialogue and progress for Internet governance. We look forward to working with all actors for a more connected, inclusive, and sustainable future for all of us. Muchas gracias.
Thank you very much. I would like now to welcome to the floor Mr. Yari Ako, Chair of the IETF.
Thank you. And I'm very happy to be here in Mexico and in this conference. The topics of the week are very important. And to begin with, I wanted to join others who noted the IANA transition in their speech. I want to congratulate us all, the Internet ecosystem, for successful completion of the project. The new arrangements are in effect and working well. They're done. Time to move on. Let's talk about ongoing efforts and future challenges. Many of you have noted the important task of connecting the remaining billions of people to the Internet. That is, of course, a very important task, and it is still ahead of us. But ladies and gentlemen, that is not enough. Not just a matter of high-speed broadband, quantity and quality. The openness, the local or localized content, and the avoiding of excessive surveillance or censorship. 3 years ago, I was in my first IGF in Bali. At the time, Snowden revelations had come to light, and I talked about how we at the Internet Engineering Task Force, or IETF, had started to react to it and asked for your help in working together on this topic. Many things have happened since then, and I wanted to give you a brief report on where we are. In short, the IETF decided pervasive surveillance is just like any other threat, something that we need to do our best in protecting against. We have been updating protocols to help with this. We replaced weak algorithms, designed new protocols to better support your web browsing, for instance. If you want to know about the details, I would like to refer you to an article that appeared today in The Register. I think my colleagues may be tweeting that URL as we speak. At the same time, the world's service providers have also taken steps in improving security. As an indication of a big global change, encrypted traffic is now a majority of the traffic in many networks. One of the efforts that we currently are working with at the IETF is a new transport protocol that is likely to replace many of the current TCP connections, providing security and efficiency benefits to users. And maybe this new protocol is just a detail, but there's actually also an architectural change in that it puts the endpoints and applications even more in charge than they have been before. Expect to see much faster technology evolution when changes do not require kernel updates, as an example. And while technology is not a solution to all of these openness and other problems, we also need other aspects. And while there's plenty of work left to do, even technically, for instance, helping operators to deal with traffic management in an all-encrypted world, I'm still proud of the progress to date. And I look forward to working with you all on the next steps. So thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Arco. The next speaker is Mrs. Michelle Woods, Director of Copyright Law Division, WIPO.
On behalf of the WIPO Director General, Francis Gurry, we welcome the opportunity to participate in this important meeting on enabling sustainable and inclusive growth. The World Intellectual Property Organization, together with its 189 member states, works to promote an effective international intellectual property system that enables innovation and creativity for the economic, social, and cultural development of all countries. Some of you may now be saying to yourselves, even if you are too polite to say it to us, what does this have to do with internet governance? Over the next few days, we will demonstrate again and again that, in fact, intellectual property and internet governance writ large have numerous areas of convergence. A well-balanced and well-functioning intellectual property system contributes to inclusive and sustainable growth by both providing guarantees and incentives for innovation to take place and for creators to flourish, and by providing for flexibilities and exceptions to the scope of protection that help to guarantee that the interests of society, the general public, and individual users and consumers are also taken into account. Earlier today, we joined in a lightning session on finding the balance, access to knowledge and culture online. Much of that knowledge and culture is embodied in copyrighted content. We will offer programming here that illustrates both of these IP perspectives, the rights and the exceptions, and their importance for sustainable growth. This morning, we heard film producers from developing economies in Africa, Asia, and Latin America discuss the importance of the intellectual property system in setting up the legal framework and business environment for them to create local content. The Internet has created important new mechanisms for content creation, distribution, and consumption, which in turn have driven growth in the creative industries sector of the economy. From the economic perspective, we see a growing awareness of the contribution of creative industries to national economies. WIPO studies show that across developing, transitional, and developed economies, on average, the creative industries account for some 5.2% of GDP and some 5.3% of total employment. More evidence is provided by our Global Innovation Index, which measures the innovation performance of over 140 countries. The broad GII vision of innovation includes familiar IGF themes of access and use, internet freedom, knowledge diffusion, and online creativity, among others. The results in recent years have reiterated that digital innovation is a key driver of economic growth. We've briefly touched now on the importance of content for the Internet ecosystem, and I want to address the other side of the balance. Tomorrow, in our WIPO Open Forum, we will focus on the role of the Internet in implementing the flexibilities and exceptions to intellectual property rights. We will use the specific example of the WIPO Marrakesh Treaty. This treaty, embodying the values of the CRPD, can exponentially improve the lives of many of the 285 million persons in the world who are blind and visually impaired because of the internet. That will be the vehicle to allow the instant cross-border transfer of accessible books in digital formats, which will allow people in all member countries access to education, learning, and the complete expression of their own culture despite their visual impairments and disabilities. The Marrakesh Treaty development process is also relevant to the ongoing discussion here at the IGF about multilateralism and multi-stakeholderism. Stakeholders drove the progress of the Marrakesh Treaty at all stages. We'll be joining a discussion tomorrow on what lessons that hybrid, open, transparent process can bring to multilateral institutions. We will also highlight the role of the public-private multi-stakeholder WIPO Accessible Books Consortium, the ABC, in making the promise of the Marrakesh Treaty a reality by using the Internet to move content across borders. And the Internet will also be the key driver for WIPO's crucial contribution to the achievement of SDGs 9 and 19, with a focus on education and innovation. In general, the key IGF theme of increasing access to process, to content, and to distribution mechanisms has been an important recent focus of our work. We look forward to discussing both our new open access policy and our use of Creative Commons licensing with many of you over the next few days. I could go on and on through the entire program with more examples of convergence between Internet governance and intellectual property, but I'm sure those of you who are still here will be glad to hear I'm not going to do that exercise. Instead, I will simply ask you to partner with us to raise awareness of the intellectual property system and to ask governments around the world to provide an appropriate framework to allow the Internet to deliver inclusive, sustainable growth to all economies. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ms. Woods. The next and last, but certainly not least, speaker is Engineer Jose Luis Saca Jimenez, President of the International Association of Broadcasting.
Muchas gracias. Vamos a ser breves. Sé que soy el último de esta sección, pero muchas gracias por su paciencia. Bueno, primero que nada, mi nombre es José Luis Saca, soy el presidente de la Asociación Internacional de Radiodifusión, AIR, que a su vez es uno de los 8 miembros de las uniones mundiales de radiodifusión. Y es un honor, por ende, poder representar esta tarde a la radiodifusión mundial. Quiero darle gracias, por supuesto, a UNDESA en Nueva York, a la Secretaría del Foro de Gobernanza de Internet en Ginebra, así como a la Presidencia de México por esta atenta invitación y pues por hacerlo un lugar tan bello como es Jalisco. Comentarles que las uniones mundiales de radiodifusión han estado en este proceso desde hace años, específicamente desde el 2003, cuando se coorganizó en conjunto con la Unión Europea de Radiodifusión y la Cumbre Mundial sobre la Sociedad de la Información. Desde entonces hemos venido apoyando los esfuerzos y apoyamos y seguiremos apoyando el Foro de Gobernanza de Internet. Este año, como todo el mundo lo ha mencionado, tenemos 10 años hacia adelante donde podemos hacer muchísimas cosas para que los retos sean cosas del pasado, entre otras cosas, lograr también, llamémosle, reglas de equidad para todos, etcétera. Específicamente hablando del tema de este año, que es habilitando el desarrollo sostenible e inclusivo, creo que la radiodifusión tiene mucho para colaborar en esto, ya que por excelencia hemos sido los proveedores de contenido y llevamos a miles de millones de personas la información a diario y somos parte fundamental de la democracia y son valores como la libertad de expresión que seguiremos defendiendo. Creo también que sin duda los objetivos de Naciones Unidas en cuanto a los desarrollos, a los objetivos de desarrollo sostenible son también objetivos que nosotros compartimos y estamos convencidos que en conjunto con el Internet y los operadores de telecomunicaciones, vamos a lograr sacarle el mayor provecho a las tecnologías. No nos olvidemos que es a través de los medios de libre recepción que se le llega a todo el mundo, con niveles de penetración arriba del 95% en radio y niveles de penetración arriba del 80% con televisión, en lo que todavía pues, el Internet anda por debajo del 50%. Por eso es fundamental que se pueda seguir desarrollando el espectro adjudicado para la radiodifusión, así como para el Internet pueda desarrollarse en otras bandas del espectro. Finalmente, decirles que creo que este paso que se está dando en Guadalajara es importante para llegar a un objetivo, que es un objetivo que como radiodifusores compartimos a nivel mundial, que es el desarrollo de nuestras naciones y el progreso de nuestras sociedades. Muchísimas gracias. Buenas noches.
Thank you very much. With these comments, I think we have concluded the opening session, and I'd like to thank all of you who stayed behind. Thank you very much, and I wish you all a very pleasant and fruitful IGF 2016. Thank you.
Thank you, It's a pleasure. See you soon.
Yes.